We have today quite esteemed group of panelists who are coming from the school safety community, particularly from the civil society community striving and working for school safety. We have with us also panelists who are working in the field of remote learning and digital applications. One particular panelist is a journalist, a researcher who has done research to produce articles on this issue of digital options and digital learning. And of course, we have organizations that are the forefront of this area, this emerging area in Nigeria. In addition, we have scholars and we have senior level government officials with us to reflect on the issue and to give us a policy perspective of what are the options, what works best, and is there a possibility for a hybrid model. But in addition to all these colleagues who are all of us here in Nigeria, we have with us students from the University of Leiden. These are students in development studies who have researched the issue from the Nigerian point of view, looking at the movement, or should I say the migration to digital learning platforms, and exploring the potential to which this offers a solution to the problem of school safety. As we all know, investing in school safety is an expensive and time-consuming and sometimes very difficult activity, largely because we require so much support, community support, military, paramilitary support, issues of parents and school-based management committee support, and of course, the support of schools and the children in the schools. So school safety, as much as we will all desire school safety to be at the topmost priority for us in the education space, there are challenges. And the CSOs today will talk about some of these challenges in implementing school safety actions and initiatives. Is digital learning an alternative? Can it provide, can it reach, can it access, can it ensure that all children can access learning and learning outcomes improve? This is the intersectionality between school safety and digital learning that we're about to consider and discuss this morning. So having framed the issues, may I just ask our panelists to introduce themselves. Tell us about what you do perhaps in the school safety community, or perhaps in the digital learning community, or perhaps as a researcher in either of these two communities. Tell us what you do, introduce yourselves, and from there, we will begin the conversation. My name is Judith Ann Walker. I'm the coordinator of the Development Research and Projects Center, and I welcome you all to this webinar. May I call on the students of the University of Leiden first to introduce yourselves and tell us what you do as researchers on this important topic concerning Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Good morning. I hope you can all hear me. First of all, on behalf of my group, I would like to begin by thanking you for this opportunity to meet with you and for inviting us to speak on this panel. Our names are Yasmijn, Max, Nadine, and Barbara, and we are a group of students from Leiden University College, The Hague, which is located in the Netherlands. And we're working with Dr. Erhard and the Development Research and Project Center, DRPC, in Nigeria for the purpose of a course of development project management. And through our collaboration with DRPC, we have been able to explore the challenges faced by the education sector during COVID-19 in Nigeria and looking for possible solutions for the structural problem that Nigeria faces in its education. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yasmijn. May I now ask Isa to kindly introduce yourself? Perhaps he's not with us. May I ask Chidima?
Hello, good morning, everyone. My name is Chidima Okeke. I'm the head of education desk, Daily Trust Institute of Abuja. Well, as a journalist, I mostly deal with issues around education, and I report everything that has to do with education, both within Abuja and outside Abuja. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chidima. Dr. Ekene, can you please introduce yourself to the panel and to all the eager listeners? We have over 50-something people with us this morning.
Thank you, Judith. I hope everyone can hear me. My name is Adefunke Ekine, and I'm an associate professor at the University of Education, the first University of Education in Nigeria. Also, I'm the executive director for Youth Care. That is our outreach arm where we reach out to schools and children in the primary and secondary school. And we do work on gender-based violence as one of the things that affects children's safety in school. So thank you for having me.
Very welcome. Aderonke, can you tell us about yourself? Introduce yourself to us.
Yeah, good morning. I'm Aderonke, and the EG of Talent Plus Resources International. In our organization, we focus on education issues. We also work with other civil society organizations to make sure that our schools are safe and to make sure that our pupils and students are learning. We also do advocacy to government to make sure that government are doing the right things, looking at the policies that surround education in Lagos State, because we're based in Lagos. And I'm also the state coordinator for Civil Society Action Coalition on Education. I'm also, the organization is also a member of Child Protection Network in Lagos State, while we are the secretary for the local government where we are based. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that. Aberdeen, can we hear from you? Who are you? What are you doing in the space?
Thank you very much, Dr. Aberdeen Opeyemi Olasupo is my name. I work with the Brain Builders Youth Development Initiative as the executive director. At the intersection of our work is using data and technology to advocate for education for all. We are the lead organization for the Global Campaign for Education in Nigeria. And we recently also carried out a research on education and COVID-19 and how it has affected school enrollment as well. So I'm excited this morning to join this panel and make my contributions to the topic. Thank you.
Absolutely, very welcome. And we are very privileged to have with us Professor Jumare this morning. As you all know, he's the Executive Secretary of the NERDC. And we ask him to introduce himself, but we all know him. Prof, can you kindly introduce yourself?
Hello, can you hear me?
Indeed, yes, Prof.
Yeah, as you said, my name is Ismail Junaidu, the Executive Secretary of the Nigerian Educational Research and Development Council, NERDC. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that modest introduction, very modest indeed. So as we have been discussing, I would now like to pose the very first question and open the floor, particularly to Aderonke, to start the conversation going on the challenges of making schools safe, the cost implications, the logistical challenges. Talk to us a bit about the challenges and what are the issues concerning school safety in Nigeria currently? Aderonke, are you with us?
I'm so sorry. I was talking. I didn't unmute my mic.
Okay, hello.
Yeah.
It happens. Please go ahead. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Dr. Judith Walker. In Lagos State, where we are based, some of the issues that we find around education and education with children are actually, this child protection, where we have schools, infrastructural issues, though the state is trying its best, but they still need to do more. We find where children are, where there are schools that are no fencing. We find out that there are bullying in school, cultism in school, and so many other issues surrounding this. And we have been actually engaging government in how to see that this, should be resolved, especially with the coalition that we belong to, that SAKEFA in Lagos State. And governments have actually been listening to us in Lagos State. There are issues that we intervene in, and though it might take some time, but we find out that at the end, that they actually listen and take some steps, though we still have a long way to go. And we just hope that government will keep listening to civil society, because we know where the issues are. Yes, government are doing their best. They will tell us that they have their officers that go around the schools and all that, but we know that there are more issues, especially with the issues of child protection, with safety. Most of the schools in Lagos State don't have safeguarding policies that guide what goes on in the school. And this, we're hoping that government will actually look into and make it mandatory that every school all over the country, Nigeria, should have this safeguarding policy, child protection policy, so that our children will be safe, so that they can learn without fear, especially now that we are hearing so many things happening around education and children in Lagos State. It's becoming scarier, especially in private schools. So government, we are advocating that government should make it mandatory that every school should have safeguarding policies and child protection policies in place. And this we are actually going to monitor to make sure that these are in place so that we can have safe schools for our children. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that. Chidima, you are the head of the education desk in the Daily Trust. The Daily Trust has distinguished itself as a newspaper by constantly and consistently reporting on the issue of school safety, particularly with a focus on northern Nigeria. Some of us sometimes read the articles and do think that they're a bit sensationalized, but one of the things we do note is that there are statistics and there's data about school attacks. Tell us about your work as the head of the education desk, documenting and tracking attacks on schools. What does that entail? And why the focus for this particular newspaper?
Okay, just like you said, Daily Trust is actually a paper that stands to speak up in the North, but now we have actually gone national. It's no longer about the North. But when it comes to issue of school safety, it cuts across. But we all know that particularly the North is at a more receiving end because of issue of insecurity. So recently, over time now, we've had a lot of issues around school safety, where students are being abducted, parents, some are even killed, schools have been shut down, a lot of places, schools are not taking place. So looking at those issues, and we started this issue a long time when Chibok girls were adopted. And then as a paper, we decided to chronicle every day of the issues that were arising from those abductions and the subsequent ones that happened. So for us as a media, we felt that, okay, it is our responsibility to keep reminding governments that, look, this is what is going on and they are not supposed to lie low. And the issue of school safety, it is very, very unfortunate. Like when you go to the North are actually left behind. Most times, I've been opportune to be in most of the northern states, especially in the rural area. You find out that the location of the school is usually a challenge in most cases. You find students trekking a long distance just to go to school. This does not make it safe for them, especially on the road. They can get hit by a car, they can be abducted on their way. We also find out that most schools do not have perimeter fencing. And this exposes the children. Like any other person can walk in, you go to some schools, you find out some people will just walk in and pass through the school compound to wherever they are going. In some places, you find out all these cows taking over school at the school compound after class. There are no security personnel in place. So all this, even the environment in most cases are not even safe for the kids because some schools do not have basic facilities like toilets. So these students have to go to the bush to ease themselves. Some have to even run home. And when they get home, they don't longer come back to school. So these are so many issues we discovered along these issues. And then as a paper, we just felt it is our responsibility to keep tap on them until we get the change that we desire. So basically, that
Thank
is why we concentrate more on the north. Yeah.
Thank you, Chidima. One of the important things you've told us is that this is not a current thing, that the trust has been monitoring and tracking attacks on schools, particularly in the north and now throughout Nigeria. And you've been doing that for more than since the time of the Chibok girls. And this is very significant and very important for us to note that the question and the issue of school safety is not a contemporary one, immediate one. It's one of long standing, particularly for Northern Nigeria. So thank you for shedding that light. But in addition to this long-standing issue, we had COVID-19 from 2019 and continuing on to now. And we had school lockdowns, we had closure of schools. So we have a compounding and confounding issue. We have attacks on schools, we have problems of safeguarding children in schools, and then we had COVID-19. Now, COVID-19 presented a very important, moment in the history of education in Nigeria. Because for the first time, an education emergency was defined as that, an emergency, and the response was a technological response. Several international funders and state governments responded by having online platforms, radios, or online opportunities for children to access various platforms, various programs, learning applications, so that children will not just feel that they are not doing anything, that they are fully engaged. So the question now that we would like to explore, given the challenges of school safety that have been ongoing, given the conjuncture of COVID-19, and given the digital solution, is it really a solution? What has happened with regard to the migration to online platforms? How effective has it been? And is it possible that this can be a long-standing solution to a problem that we have of making education accessible to all? Do we have a quick solution with technology? Aberdeen.
Thank you very much for that question. And of course, I would say yes, because like you said, COVID-19 has made us see that technology has come to stay, and technology is the new oil. But my contribution will come from the perspective of leaving no one behind. While, of course, different international donor agencies, corporate organizations, government explore using technology, there are some individuals that could not really access an Android phone, and the internet penetration in Nigeria is even at a low hub. You will see from, hosting webinar like this, network problem, network issues from different people who want to make contributions or who want to join. So my proposition would be that while, of course, that technology is awesome and it has been given results, can we explore like Internet of Things or solutions that does not really require internet? Like having a USSD code for those in the villages or remote community who do not really have access to internet. By maybe, we have been talking about edutech solutions. That edutech solution must not necessarily be the one that requires the heavy internet or technology.
Have we lost you, Aberdeen?
The students. So obviously, hello?
Yes, we are with you.
Okay. So obviously, it has really helped because, we discovered that during that time, state government institutions leverage on televisions and radios to really pass information. And of course, learners had opportunity to listen. But even at that as well, some people are left behind. So for us to achieve digital alternative to education in Nigeria, we must activate that mantra of leaving no one behind by providing locally made solution. The solution that will work in Abuja and Lagos might not necessarily work in Maiduguri and might not work in Kano. So each state needs to deliberately localize and domesticate the solution based on the peculiarity and the reality of the challenges. But of course, technology has come to stay. And of course, it's something that has really, really improved education. And from the research we carry out during COVID as well, we discovered that a whole lot of students leverage on that platform to learn and also to follow different classes online. So I would say kudos to organizations like the DRPC and others who collaborated and took it as a point of duty to really explore the digital technology to provide education during COVID. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Aberdeen. Very convincing, but I'm not sure if there are some remaining questions that we would like to pose to you. So let's keep a hold on that and we will come back to you. I'd now like to ask the students from the University of Leiden who have approached this issue from an academic perspective. They've done the research on Nigeria. They've spent a couple of months or more researching the migration from a focus on an emphasis on school infrastructure to the new perspective of digital opportunities or even hybrid online, offline perspectives, but certainly a movement into the digital domain. So may I ask the students to share with us your learning? You've done the research, you've interviewed some people, key informants in Nigeria, you've reviewed secondary data. What have you found about the possibility and the options and the extent to which Nigerians are invested in exploring this digital opportunity that exists in the education sector? Please.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. We have indeed done research into the online practices that have been put in place in Nigeria, but also in other countries. And through our systematic review of the best practices, we found some key findings that involve mostly the coordination that is very important between civil society, government, and individual stakeholders. We also explored the possibility of including the private sector more into this and formulate collaborations between existing virtual schools and partners. We also really found that ICT usage really requires access, but also technological literacy. But most importantly, that support is vital in order to make online education beneficial. This is not only support to students, but also to parents and teachers, because without this support, people do not know how to access the resources or how to properly use the technologies that are available, because there are a lot of technologies out there that people don't know about or not know how to properly use. We therefore are playing with the idea of creating a website, actually, or an online platform that would also contain offline components, either through small downloadable files or physical distributive papers that could include a lot of resources for people and families and teachers, with tips for students, how to for study tips for students, and for teachers. Could also use this platform to find ways of forming their students' assignments in such a way that parents do not have to invest as much of their time in helping their kids, because this would reduce the reliance of parental involvement, as not all parents are always available to assist their students, to assist their kids as much as they might want to. For parents, it would include information on how to better support their kids in a remote learning setup. But mainly the objective would be that this would also, the online version of this platform would create a community of learners and a support system for all the stakeholders, because the literature that we researched really shows that communication and communities of learners are vital in remote learning. And this website could have, for example, an interactive forum where users may interact and add to this database of resources that we discussed and ask questions to their peers, so we can reintroduce the aspect of community and of communication into the online learning environment, which is often missing. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have digital options that seem possible and seem to be able to address certain constraints and challenges in the education system in Nigeria. We have the students from the University of Leiden telling us about their research, sharing with us, and pointing to a very tangible option that they are wishing to introduce for students in Nigeria. We have Aberdeen's experience, very emphatic and very committed to the digital option, and certainly pointing to some gaps and the need for us to invest in particular applications. Now, I would like to ask Professor Junedu to reflect on these options. When I think of NERDC, we think of curricula, we think of documents that are printed and distributed, we think of teacher development, we think of manuals and support materials for teachers, we think of the students and we think of their curriculum. But increasingly, it seems as NERDC is also moving into the domain that the University of Leiden students have told us about, and certainly what Aberdeen has shared. And this is of the digital option of exploring and exploiting, I should say, the digital option to reach more, cover more, and to ensure that we have applications that can actually address Nigeria's large and growing population of students and teachers. So is NERDC sold on the idea that the digital option is perhaps a complementary or maybe the best option to advance your mandate as a significant government organization, the anchor of curriculum development in Nigeria, so to speak? May I ask Professor Junedu to address this issue? Thank you. Hope he has not muted himself. Prof? So while we wait on Professor Junedu, I'd like to ask Adefunke, as an educationist, to address that particular issue. Whether it is from the education system's point of view, we have an opportunity now that we should not miss. We have an opportunity to address many of the gaps in the system from an education system's point of view by tapping into the opportunities provided from digital education.
Thank you, Judith. And I would say that it's really a good opportunity for us in Nigeria to leverage on, because apart from COVID and all the other insecurity problems that we have, we'll find out that we are in the digital age and we need to come up and raise our game, you know, in the education sector. So one thing I want to say that we need to re-strategize even as teachers, because teachers that are going to even assess the children must be able to know how to use this technology. So someone talked about support. So there must be support for teachers at the training center. That is like at my university where we train teachers. We need to look at the way we train teachers. Do we use technology to teach and to train them? So we need to repackage our intervention so that these teachers can be able to use technology to teach, to assess, and to deliver their lessons. Also, we'll see that some states, like Ogun State and Oyo State, they were able to reach their students through television, as somebody has mentioned, the DigiClass and School on Air. But one of the challenges that I found out with that is they were not able to reach the children in the primary school or the early childhood. That's children from age 3 to 11. They focus more on secondary school. So those people looking at the interventions and the solutions need to look at simple literacy and numeracy interventions that children at that level, at the primary school level, can access at home, either through the radio or through the television. And I'm aware of the project that UNICEF did in the North, using radio to reach children in that age cohort. So I think all those things are possible solutions. We shouldn't say it's because of COVID. No, we're in the digital era. And if we can bank online, and most people do not go to the bank again now, even the average trader can send money or receive money on their phone. So I think those of us working in the education space to look at intervention that will not really depend on internet, as Aberdeen said, things that could be done offline, short courses or short lessons, or things that could be done on radio or in ways in which it will be accessible to all, so that the internet will not be a major problem. But I think in the education space, we need to look at the digital alternatives. We can't go back or remain at the same level of face-to-face. It's not working. So we need to work with what is working now so that our children can keep learning even in the face of emergencies.
Thank you, Dr. Ekene. May I ask you, regarding the recommendation from the University of Leiden students, that we need a community of practice, that we can't just expect these children to be learning on their own in silos. Communities have to be brought in, physical communities, parents, and the children working together collectively through networks. How feasible is that, given what we know to be the challenges of our community regarding technology? Because this is a best practice that they have flagged. Right now, we are just having situations where children access remote learning opportunities. They sit, they listen, they do their homework, and that's it.
Well, that's a critical point that they've mentioned, because if you look at the theory of learning, social activity, social learning, social control is important for children to learn in a social an environment. So one of the things that I think can work is that even while the children are in their homes, they may be working together in a group within the class. And so that still gives them that feel of learning with their peers, so that maybe assignment or group work or things like that will be done, and there'll be connectivity between one student and the other. In as much as we want to say that parents should support children, the reality on ground in Nigeria is because of the economic situation, most parents are not there. We can encourage them to be part of the community to support the children. We can encourage the teachers to be there, but we can create a community within the learners, so that a learner in Maiduguri can work with another learner in Maiduguri or another learner in Lagos. If there is a way that those working on the technology can create it within the system, that they are not working alone, they work in groups, and they can have teamwork, they can discuss, they can do group work, group assignments, they can even chat while they are doing the work. So that social learning aspect is important, because we found out that even while children are learning in silos, if you are not there for them, the attrition rate is high. People start online learning, and after some time they get distracted and they just leave off and they don't finish the course. So that issue of working together as a team may encourage and may help learners to still feel the sense of community, even while using technology to learn at home.
Thank you for sharing your insights. Thank you very much. And now we have Professor Junaidu, who is available and ready to share his perspective from the NERDC point of view. Prof?
Yeah, hello, can you hear me now?
We can, indeed.
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me to this very, very important webinar, I believe, because the issue of school safety is very, very serious, and government of Nigeria has also, particularly the Federal Ministry of Education, has taken it a very, very big priority in that regard. Now, as regards to the digital education, of course, we cannot help, as one of the speakers said, technology has come to stay. And I mean, as far as information technology is concerned, we have no alternative but to get it through. So for that reason, we have various issues that we have raised in the curriculum. First, because we know that even though not everybody in Nigeria is able to have access to the internet due to so many challenges, we said, well, still those that are on, let's start with the safety, online safety security itself, because I regard it as part of the school safety. If you allow our children to have access to the internet, you have to also provide some provision for them not to be on the trap of some bad things that are happening in the in the internet. So we have a curriculum for online safety now, which I believe is adequate, because it is taking care of the issue of even this insurgency, how the children can be safe, not only physically as we are looking at the school premises, but the online itself, because if you don't do that, there will be problem. Now, as I said earlier on, the federal government has taken it. That is why not long, I think just last month, portal has been launched with the Federal Ministry of Education, and which is talking, about you can have access, you have different lessons. This is in conjunction with the NITDA and the Nigerian Television Authority. And I believe we expect the states also to key in by providing where it is possible, what is possible for them. That is through radio, not necessarily, television is there, but radio in particular. So government has launched that portal, and we are also working, I must say, the Universal Basic Education Commission with us. We are working seriously. We have already set up a technical committee to work on the what we call the open learning. This open learning is meant to have a very solid curriculum and instructional materials that would address the issue of digital learning. This we have advanced, and don't forget, sometimes we also in NERDC, we take inclusion very serious. And in that respect, that is why we are also bringing those who are, who are physically challenged also. For example, we are the very top gear in doing the issue of Braille. Our hope is to have what we call the media center. This media center would be all encompassing, and I believe even UBEC is addressing that issue. So with very serious and close collaboration with UBEC, the federal government of Nigeria, through the Federal Ministry of Education, again, we are working very hard to see that we have the digital learning in our school system. Of course, we are not unaware of the challenges. There are challenges of the equipment, the kind of things that you would use. If possible, somebody is suggesting, which I think is very good, not necessarily where you can go through the internet. If you can have lessons developed and have them in, tablets, which we hope the states will now, because we have to get the commitment of the states to provide some kind of tablets for the children where they don't necessarily go through the internet, but some lessons have been prepared for them, to be working. And because, COVID-19 has actually showed and opened to us in Nigeria our serious handicap as far as digital learning is concerned. And that is why the government is taking it very, very serious now. So we are ready as usual because we believe in private partnership. We are very, very serious. We know government cannot do it alone, but we expect very good partnership from non-governmental organizations so as to have a very solid and certain example. We know they come to intervene, and we welcome such kind of, a partnership so that we move the digital education in Nigeria, which I keep on saying now government is paying attention because it's inevitable. There is no way we can run away from digital education now. But because of so many challenges, as I said, power, the issue of the internet connectivity and all the rest. But I believe we have to start somewhere and not necessarily just to rely on urban areas. I know places like Lagos, for example, they are advanced in this kind of digital. But as somebody pointed out, which is very important, parents actually cannot afford because it's costly. But the government has seen the serious nature and is committed. I believe we will be able to get our state governments to get committed in making adequate provision for the digital learning. But definitely, digital learning we cannot run away from it. We cannot say it's the only alternative, but we can, it can assist very much in moving our educational goals forward.
Thank you very much, Professor Junaidu. And I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but I have a follow-up question.
Yeah.
You've clearly said that NERDC government cannot do it on its own. But I just wonder, with all this goodwill and all these contributions coming from international development partners, from civil society organizations, there are so many models, applications, portals with material for NECO, for WIAC, and so many people are out of good intention are doing so many things. The students have just told us that after they did the research, they now want to put together some learning opportunities and learning information so that students can access it in Nigeria. Everybody wants to access and to use these digital opportunities to address a problem that is seen to be palpable and real. Poor learning outcomes, teachers not being adequate number of teachers not being able to deliver on the curriculum, especially for NECO and for WIAC. My question is, does NERDC have a role to harmonize, to streamline all these good intentions that are out there? So many people doing so many things. When I look at the UNICEF, I know you know about the UNICEF Hitch model, for example. UNICEF is working with Hitch. Hitch has come up with so many wonderful applications, so many good reading materials and videos. I don't know if all of them are valuable to students. I sometimes wonder because nobody has done any sifting through, ranking, approving, as you do with your curriculum development. We've worked with NERDC for years on curriculum development, and we know the rigorous process that you go through. Nobody goes through that rigorous process in wanting to do good using the digital platform. It's an opportunity, and we all want to tap this opportunity. Is there a role for NERDC in trying to harmonize and trying to put some order in this space of goodwill and good intentions?
Yeah, definitely, Doc. You are right, and I think NERDC is a very good forum to take that up also. This we can do, again, as I keep on saying, if we have a concerned organization that would have that, we are ready to partner, in that respect. Our biggest problem, of course, are with the states. You see, the states are always, they don't key in unless you do a lot of sensitization and advocacy. And that is exactly what we always try to do when we have our meetings at the National Council on Education. But definitely, to answer your question, if we have an organization that would partner with us to get these things coordinated, I think it would be a good idea. And it's a very good suggestion. I would expect that definitely from DPRC. I know DRPC would be in a good position to take that initiative. And we'll be able to coordinate, as I said, and then we get it disseminated. And as I keep on saying again, with sensitization and advocacy, we would get the states, because government saw the serious, in all the states have seen the seriousness of locking the children at home without learning. And by the time we get all this together, all what has been done, I believe we would have something concrete. We would have something that all the country will be able to use. So it's a good idea if we can have that move.
Thank you, Prof. And okay. as we wind up this conversation, just a minute, please. Sorry, we are still asking. We are still with Prof. as we wind up the conversation, because Prof is in transit and he's really made a Herculean opportunity and time to be able to talk with us. As we wind up, I'm just wondering if you are thinking more in terms of a blended hybrid model of online, offline learning, or you really do believe that we should be moving more in the direction of online learning. And is this for a particular grade and level of education, maybe the SS level as opposed to the JS level? Which particular level in the education system do you think online learning would be more appropriate? Or it doesn't matter, it can be applicable to all?
No, you see, I would go for the blend, because of the nature of our, how we are, because there are so many challenges, as I said. If you have online, you would have problem of even power particularly here, I'm talking of the rural areas where they may not have. That is why I bring the idea. If you can have not just online, but to provide some small tablets where the lessons can also be, they can use the tablets to be using, the lessons that have been developed. Not just because when you have online, as I said, even in the cities like Lagos, we are talking about Kano, and the rest, they have challenges. The internet is there. Internet problem is there. The the power supply is there. Even the teachers themselves, because they have to be properly trained, to use that. So I think blend of the two would be of great importance, not just online, purely online.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Prof.
Yeah.
So Prof has shared his perspective with us. I would like to ask Aberdeen and Aderonke, you know the situation in the Southwest. The tablet option has been tried, has been explored for maybe 6 to 7 years now. It's not a new thing. Is it a feasible option?
All right, thank you very much. I'll give a case study of the state of Osun under the former governor that was introduced. While, of course, that idea was a very good one, there are major challenges to it. One, inadequate manpower is a major challenge. Teachers and tech experts ought to have been trained, who will conduct like a pass it on, train the trainers workshop for them. And of course, lack of citizen involvement and engagement in this is a major problem as well. It's not just enough for government to distribute tablets to students. There is a need for government as well to meet with the Parent Teachers Association to ensure that the tablets are being really used for what is supposed to be used for. We have cases of students using the tablets to watch pornographies. And when government want to introduce this type of stuff, there is a way through which they can regulate what they can use the tablet to do. It should be basically for learning and for knowledge, and they will not be able to use maybe WhatsApp, Facebook, Twitter, or, make judicious use of the tablet for social network and thereby really not having value for it. Because if we want to do like a monitoring and evaluation, we need to assess the performance of students before that tablet in the state of Osun in WAEC, NECO, and some other exam, and their performance post the tablet. So if you take a cursory look at that, it has not really have a greater impact or effect. So these are some of the lacuna and challenges I've noticed about it that I am suggesting that if government want to do it, why it's a brilliant one for offline methodology that I've suggested, and of course the USSD code, there's a need for government to be intentional about monitoring and evaluation and carry everybody along so that the teachers, the teachers association, the community leaders, the traditional rulers, the government themselves will really know and do monitoring and evaluation maybe every 3 months to really ensure that some of these things are done. And of course, there are organizations who are working on this field and ready to volunteer. We have the Safety Cheek Initiative, we have Area High, we have MATEC. There are different organizations. Nigerian Youth for SDG is there, SAKEFA is there, our own organization, BBYDI is there. So if government is deliberate about making these impacts, there's a need for us to activate what we call the collaboration and not competition to really solve these challenges. Thank you.
Thank you. Aderonke?
Yes, thank you very much. I think for it to work, yes, I think Osun State and Lagos State, presently Lagos State is actually on EcoExcel, and some of the things that we have seen on ground and we have also brought to government is that even the teachers are complaining. So I think the first thing before any new invention or intervention could be maybe put forward either to schools, teachers, or all that, they should bring everybody together. Talk to the parents about it. Even the children, the pupils, the students, they should be involved. They should carry out kind of a baseline study, ask questions, and even localize. Because at times, yes, like for example in Lagos State now, everybody sees Lagos State as the state of excellence and maybe the high grade state. But even in Lagos State, we have rural communities that you still find children not going to school. So we want to make all this work. We have to bring all this a unique community. We create a special community. Program rather. For each of the communities. And even if the government wants it to succeed, we can even go with the local languages, because there are some children when you're trying to teach them, they might not even understand English for a start. You can start with the local language and use that to bring them on, so that the education will be interesting to them. So for now, the blended hybrid model, I think, will work, because if you want to take these children, you have a lot of out-of-school children in Lagos State and all over Nigeria, and you have some children still dropping out of school, maybe because school is not interesting or attractive to them. So we can look for, let us talk to ourselves. Government should not just come and give us what they think is the best, because by the time you are bringing it, you think it's the best. At the end of the day, the people that you are actually serving, what if they don't use it? And that was what happened with that Osun State, that became like a failed project, a very laudable project, but became a failed project, and they cannot even continue until now. So everybody must be brought in, like what the prof was talking about now. When I listen to it, it's so interesting, fantastic, it's very laudable. But we should work with everybody, we should bring everybody along, so that education in Nigeria will not be a failed thing. When you see children on this, even the ones that are investing now, look at the ASU strike, for example. What maybe if we have some schools that are already into the internet or alternate education, the digital education, for example, now, I'm sure they will not be missing, but you have a lot of them at home. Education is the bedrock for a civilized society, a developed society. So I think government should take this very seriously and work with all stakeholders, so that for each of the state, for each of the community, they can come up with what will work, so that we won't have children, not learning anymore. And I believe when we all work together, when we all come together and work, this will actually work. We all put in our best to make sure that it works. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Aderonke. I have one question now for Chidima. And Chidima, I know that you heard Professor Junaid very well when he said that they have, NERDC that is, have been working with UBEC, and they're moving towards developing what he called open learning platform, where all this material is harmonized. I know that you've been doing some research on this new movement and push of UBEC. It seems as if the policy space is changing and government is coming up with new directions. Can you very briefly, in just 2 minutes or less, share with us some of your findings?
Yeah, with my experience with UBEC came up with this smart school idea. According to them, the smart school idea is just to improve effective teaching and learning in our public schools, and it has to do with ICT. And
Would they be building smart schools? Chidima, is UBEC going to be building smart schools?
Yes. The schools, they are already built. In fact, some of them are ready at the moment. So it's not like they are going to, they are already building it. Some are already from some states. Theirs are ready and they are waiting for commissioning. And according to UBEC, they are going to equip the smart school and then hand it over to the state government. So the state government is going to run the smart school, and then from there, they are now advised to, based on what they are able to see from the smart school, they are now advised to come up with other, maybe other ones in other locations. But like what the prof said, I'm sorry to say this, like the state is usually the problem. When these issues, when these smart schools are handed over to them, they might decide not to duplicate it, because the idea is for them to duplicate it in order to, so that it can cut across the states. So, but the idea is that most times when they come up with this project, you find out that it's just a pilot. Once they do that pilot scheme, they no longer replicate it, because they don't want to invest more in it. But if this smart school, from the explanation of UBEC, is being put to use, I'm sure it's going to help a lot with this digital education we are talking about. Because of the COVID issue, a lot of people are not learning. But with this now, teachers are going to be trained for them to be able to teach their students. So if they can actually deploy this ICT in the States, I think we have a very good outcome from it.
Okay, thank you very much. And Zubaida has just sent out a little notice in the chat asking if you have questions, please direct your questions to the chat. And we do have quite a number of questions. We have a question from Nadia on tablets. Can we ask Nadia to voice over this question for us, please? What exactly are you asking with regard to the tablets? Because I think, Aberdeen, your experience sharing from Osun State has generated a lot of questions. So we have one from Nadia asking about the tablets. Can you voice over your question, please? Okay. So we have a question also by Sulking Gagi, Sulking Yakin Gagi. Can you voice over your question?
Thank you.
Hello, I think I can see Nadia's question on the chat box. Are you happy if I take it now?
Can you take the question, please?
Okay, thank you very much. So Nadia was asking about the distribution of tablets in rural area. This is not just a solution that has been happening everywhere. Like well, we have just stated it has been tried in Osun, it's being currently tried in Lagos. Edo is also trying something like that as well at the moment. So what they did in Osun was that they gave it to just senior secondary school students, SS2 and SS3, who are preparing for WAEC, NECO, and external exams. And of course, what the state government did was to ensure that in tandem with the curriculum of WAEC and NECO, they ensure that all the subjects were put there, and it's like an offline model. You don't necessarily need internet for you to access those solutions. So it's like based on the teaching pedagogy and current curriculum that is being used that it was deployed for. Because of the cost of funding, the government said that time during the education summit that they're not able to distribute to all students. But of course, like we have been saying and re-emphasizing on the issue of states, there is a need for us as different civil society organizations across different states to try to take these alternative solutions to state governments so that these challenges of sustainability will not be there again. So what happened in Osun was that they gave SS2 and SS3, and it's not for all the local governments in Nigeria. So it's a model that has been practiced in Osun, practiced in Lagos. Edo is currently doing it, and I'm also aware, of course, Kwara is planning towards that as well.
Thank you for that, Aberdeen. We also have a very important question from the Northeast, from one Abubakar Sadiq Mwazu. And he's raising the peculiarity of Borno State, and he's asking about the radio programs. It's a very interesting question because it's not school safety in general, it's school safety in the Northeast. So can someone on the panel take this question from Abubakar Mwazu? He said in the Northeast, the part of Nigeria, Borno State, it's not just due to COVID-19 or insurgency. We have started interactive radio sessions. I'm not quite sure what interactive radio sessions are, that teach pupils in a school club kind of setting. So can someone speak to this issue of the model that he is proposing? It's a radio program, it's interactive, and it's around clubs. So this speaks to the issue of what the University of Leiden students have proposed to us today as a best practice.
Okay, let me respond. Can I respond to it?
Yes, please.
Okay, Issa Suleiman from Kaduna State, H4CC. That model is a welcome idea. Though during the COVID-19, Kaduna State government have tried such, but the feedback we got was that enough sensitization was not carried out before it, and not all the people as expected, let me say below average, was able to key into such programs. And the program was a one-way thing because they were not phone-in participants to even ask questions where they didn't get right. And after COVID, in Kaduna State, they've tried something differently because part of our gaps was the pool of teachers that we have, and yet some are not doing the right thing. So Kaduna State government is working with UNICEF right now, working on an app they call TIMIS, Teachers Management Information System, that track activities of teachers' engagement within the school, and also the outcome, the lessons they deliver at school level. Though this is still working towards the physical learning, because that app will have to track the time you get to school and the time you leave school, just to check out for accountability and transparency. Though digital learning have come to stay, because as we speak, there are even private schools that have developed some of their URL that from school they download from home, and they have the lesson of the day, and they engage with their parents, sometimes with the teachers. Some private school delegate some of their teachers to go around some of their the students' houses to entertain certain questions that the children will find difficult to pass through the virtual learning. This is working for private schools in Kaduna, and we hope, because while we are working on the TIMIS,
have we lost Suleiman? Hello? Let's give him a minute and see if he will come back on. So I think we've lost Suleiman. Aberdeen, I want to suggest that Nadia is not satisfied with your response. As you can see in the chat, she's raising a second question, which you might wish to respond to her in the chat over, because she seems to be very concerned about the nature of Nigeria and the possibility that the tablets can be abused. So again, a follow-up question. So let's ask Sunday's question, and let's pose it to Dr. Ekene. Sunday is asking, the question is, the school safety and digital system alternative to education in Nigeria. For it to work effectively, he's saying, we need to train the teachers. We need to train the available teachers who are ready to change and process, who are already in charge of this structure and ready to move it forward. My question, Dr. Ekene, how can we get that done? How can we use and work through institutions like yours? Do you have a curriculum already in place to train teachers on digital applications, or is it the same old mundane curriculum where we are training teachers for our curriculum and for a world of 10 years ago?
Thank you, Dr. Walker. I would say that the journey of 1,000 miles, they say, starts with a step. We will not be able to get to what we want if we don't start now. Some universities have already started training their teachers. As I mentioned, during the COVID, we had to first train our own lecturers and colleagues on how to use technology to train the students. And over the years, that's the last 2 years, we've had Google come to our university to train the trainers. And then we have an ed tech hub now in the university with collaboration with an organization in Lagos called the CCO, that they do continuous training for our students on how to use technology to teach. So that's one step that Taicho Lare University of Education is taking. We produce at least 3,000 teachers every year. And I know that within the next 5 years, we will digitalize nearly everything that we're doing. So if universities will take steps, even if it's small steps, to introduce the use of technology into their training system for the teachers, the classroom, the pre-service teachers, by the time they go on the field for their internship and then they become classroom teachers, they will have been used to that. Then for the government, the state government and the federal government, I think the teachers that are in school system now, there should be in place a system in which they can have continuous professional development. That's the only way in which these digital alternatives can actually come to stay. As we had already identified, we're not saying that we should move totally to that. An hybrid version is okay, but we should look for a way in which more and more of our lessons will be digitalized, and then students can access it in different forms through the radio, the television, their mobile, offline, whatever it is that we want to use. But I think a systemic training of teachers, both in service and pre-service teachers in all our colleges of education, our university and faculty of education, should be a critical thing that we should look into right now, so that the teachers and would-be teachers can actually provide the support that the children need when they want to learn. Because if the teachers do not know how to use they are digitally illiterate, then there's no way they can provide the support that the learners need. We may not be able to train parents, but we can start with the teachers, because the teachers are the key factor in the learning of any child, you know. So I think a systemic way of introducing teachers, both the in-service teachers and pre-service teachers, to embrace technology is a major thing that the government of today needs to look into, and the vice chancellors of universities.
Thank you very much. But if I do recall, your university is one of its kind in Nigeria. Is there a possibility of being a trailblazer in that respect, instead of waiting for vice chancellors and waiting for this great idea to percolate down to all 36 states and the FCT? Could your university champion this particular type of preschool and in-service, pre-service and in-service training?
Yes, there is a possibility if we get a collaboration. As I said, CC Hub, Co-Creation Hub is named, is an NGO in Lagos. They are the one that helped us with our EdTech lab in 2019. I think it was 2018 it was established. And during the COVID period, we were able to carry out some of our classes using the facility there. And as I said, Google has come in twice to train. And so with the little that we're able to do, at least on every month, students are available online to take their classes. We even do exams via our EdTech lab. Some of our courses are done online, but we still do the physical one, but we've started in a small way. So I believe that being the first university of education and the largest producer or the largest trainer of teachers, if we see collaboration, we can expand what we have, because that EdTech hub cannot, for now, we're using it maybe for very few courses and very few learners at the same time, you know, but we'll need to expand if we're going to take it to cover every other person. But something that we have done is that we've tried to provide our teaching and learning during COVID online to our students, both the undergraduate and the postgraduate teachers. Though it's not all the courses, but majorly the foundational courses where we have large numbers, they are taken online, and they do their exams online, and we are making them to learn how to even do group work, do the assignment and all those things online. So it's something that can be looked into. We're ready for partnership if we have people that are ready to do that.
We're delighted to hear this, and we will follow up and continue this conversation. Thank you very much, Dr. Ekene.
Thank
We
you,
have
Judy.
3 questions from Tayo, and Tayo is asking about how to access all this material that is available in so many disparate places. And I would like to ask the University of Leiden students to address this question, because they are now in the process of putting together and curating some of this material in the hope that Nigerian students will benefit from it. So my question to the University of Leiden students, in fact, 2 questions. As you curate this material, are you thinking in terms of customizing it for the Nigerian environment, our exams as they are, because educational material should be aligned with the education system, 1. And as you curate this material, how are you going to make it available to people like Tayo? Because Tayo has asked 3 questions about making sure that this material is accessible, open source, and can be used and shared with students. So the students from the University of Leiden, please.
Yes, I would like to thank you for that question. We indeed agree that coordination is extremely important, and that it's also extremely important to customize the platform to Nigeria, because it is the most helpful to Nigerian students, of course, if it's tailored to their needs, which then obviously also includes tailored to their form of examination, etc. Our plan is indeed to make an open access website where there are downloadable files that don't take up a lot of storage, that are small, so that they are accessible to everybody also when internet decides to cut out.
Yeah, sorry, I will jump in the discussion. I'm also in that group of students. So obviously our approach is not to change the learning material. I would first want to address that, because the educational program that has been decided by ministries of education as such are tailored to specific Nigerian examinations and students. So that should remain the case. What we were looking at, however, is how we can use practices that have been used elsewhere, because I think we can also relate, like from our perspective, since we're not in Nigeria, it's easier for us to understand what has been done elsewhere and then see if we can apply it to actually share this information.
And what you were saying about having all this information in different places, that is exactly the problem. There are a lot of resources available and out there, like you said, but they are not easy to track down, and there's not a clear overview available as of now. And like the proposal that we have is to exactly make this overview and make it in a way that it's approachable and that it's clear and easy for people to navigate as well, so that they can find the information that they need easily.
Can I ask a follow-up question about your experience and research on other countries that face this same issue? What's the best practice? Is it one portal, one ministry, one department? Is it a civil society? Is it a university that brings together all these different disparate bits of information that are beneficial to students? What happens elsewhere?
Well, so I think that so obviously experiences differ from different countries, but we found that what is most effective is a combination of all of this, because the government might have the power to implement such policy, but in practice it's easier and more feasible for society organizations.
Different organizations within the society
to actually implement and bring to the people these experts.
When you say different organizations, private sector organizations?
We believe that collaboration between private and public sector would be most effective.
And you've seen this work in another space, in another country?
An example that we found was in Portugal, where they mostly used social media platforms the government used social media platforms to bring and spread the information that they wanted to students and parents and teachers.
Can we ask our panelists to reflect on this? Dr. Ekene, can you help us think through which model may work best for us?
I was going to ask them, how do they use the social media? Is it one aspect of social media? Because getting students and teachers and parents together to receive information from the government on social media, I don't know how that will work with the government of Nigeria just lifting the ban on Twitter. You know, that was the time it was banned. So which of the social media will we use if we're going to look at that? But I believe collaboration is necessary. Civil society, private organization, corporate organization, and the government, we all have to be at the round table and decide which way forward. We can't just keep waiting and waiting and waiting. Somebody has to take the initiative and start. So maybe they want to please speak more on that social media aspect. I'm not too clear about that, how they were able to do that in Portugal.
So in Portugal, they utilized Facebook and Instagram to send out posts and information resources to their audiences to spread the knowledge and spread the information that they wanted to share with their audience. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you. But for us here in Nigeria, that would just be reaching a very small population, maybe the youth, the students themselves, and a bit of the elite parents. What about those in the rural areas that cannot access Facebook, but they can have a small phone, but not a Facebook? I'm looking at, how the banks are able to use their the app or whatever it is, the code that they're using, so that parents, traders, everyone can receive money. You can send money through those small phones. So I think for us, if we're going to talk of alternatives digitally, then we need to look at something that will use that same system where the farmer can access with, and the farmer will be able to help his or her child. So it's something that does not need a lot of techie technology, if you understand what I'm saying. So, but if we want to use the social media, we will not be reaching all. As Abidin say, we will still be leaving some out of the educational space. But the solution that will help us is the solution that will reach the child in Kano, and the one that would reach another child in Ile-Ife, and the one that would reach the child in the riverine area. That's my suggestion. So we need to look at a total solution for all.
If I can quickly jump in here, I'm also part of the same group. My name is Nadine. So essentially what we did through our best practices review is kind of look at the things that are important and the key aspects of all of these other initiatives that have taken place in other countries. So what we recognized in Portugal was through social media, they were able to create this sort of educational community where parents, teachers, and students could communicate with each other, give constant feedback about their online practices, what works, what doesn't work, how to engage students better, what other curricula designs teachers could adopt for their classes. And so we want to use the idea of creating that community, but instead of using a social media platform like Facebook or Instagram or Twitter that already exists, we were thinking of integrating that into our own online platform that has that kind of aggregates all of this information that we were talking about before. So a lot of these best practices that have been used elsewhere, we kind of aggregate them into these kind of bite-sized resources that teachers can maybe go to see if, for example, a mathematics class, how that curriculum can be designed to be the most interactive and beneficial for the online platform, but also have an element in that platform that is a forum where teachers can talk to students or students can talk to each other, and students from different parts of Nigeria can interact with each other and see how experiences differ or what was working here and what's not working there. But the thing about internet access being different indeed is a constraint that we're still thinking about. We're still very much in the initial designing process of this platform. So we're thinking about ways in which we can still integrate practices for people that can't necessarily access the internet. And that's also a question that we wanted to put out here is how can we do that? But like we said, this platform will not just be accessible for students. So if there is a teacher in this area or a parent in this area who can access this platform, it's more about sending out the information to these people in these areas that can access information and how they can design a course within their setup to work best for that area. So it's also not a be-all end-all solution. It's more of a process. And adding on to that, people can also, we want to make this a very interactive database. So if a certain university in Nigeria has found something that works really well, they can also add to this repository of information, which other people can access. So that also builds a more contextual understanding of what works in certain places and what doesn't work. Because as my teammate said, we are not in Nigeria and we are looking for as much input as we can from on the ground. So the main idea of this is a very collaborative, feedback-based platform. Yeah, hope that kind of answers a little bit.
It answers, and it also opens up another question. How open are you as a team to more inputs from this community that you have just shared your idea with? For example, we have the email addresses of all these fine folks on the webinar this morning. How open are you to continuing conversations and inputs from them, because they know the Nigerian context and they are willing to share and will be willing to put you in touch with specific or, you know, the entire group? Are you open to that as you move forward?
Yes, we're extremely open to that. That's a big part of what we're looking for today is to hear a lot of the inputs of what has worked in the past or what is already being taken place right now. But we're extremely open to collaborating going forward and just hearing any suggestions and feedback that anyone has, because we're still very much conceptualizing this right now. So we would like as much feedback as we can get.
Absolutely. So we will facilitate that process and we will ensure cross-learning so that the output is actually beneficial to students and teachers. We don't want you to spend all this time and great youthful energy, and at the end of the day, it's not useful or beneficial. We want to ensure that it's really optimal and very beneficial. So we will have an email trail that will go out after and continue the conversation. So at this point, I would like to say that we have run over time. We were supposed to be on this very fine discussion for just 1 hour and we've exceeded time. I also want to say we've seen wonderful and thought-provoking questions from Dr. Chris, Dr. Gandu, Glory Robert, Musa Aliu, and Dr. Lawal. Wonderful questions from so many people. Unfortunately, we don't have the time to take all these questions, but we would like to thank you very much for participating in this conversation. I don't think that we've come to a definitive end. I think we've started a conversation, and we've started a conversation with so many people who are invested and champions who are invested in the education sector that we will continue bilaterally, the DRPC discussing bilaterally with you, or setting up our Facebook page so that we continue the conversation. Some of you have already made inputs into the Facebook page. We will continue the conversation there, and we will continue the conversation towards resolving issues, addressing issues, finding resources to empower education champions to be able to make a difference, because as we know, the problems are real, they're palpable, and they're many. So we thank our panelists this morning. We've had a panelist that is an exceptional and unusual panelist. We have panelists from government. We have Professor Junaid-U, who shared and is always willing and ready as a government official, very high level, to share. So we thank him. We've had the civil society community. I'm sorry, Issa, we didn't recognize you at the beginning. You were not on, and then you came on, and then we lost you again. but we hope that you are on right now. We thank you. We've had Dr. Ekene, an academic, and very importantly, we've had a journalist who works in the education space and has done this for a number of years and can give us a longitudinal perspective on this issue of school safety. Chidima, we thank you. Aberdeen Aderonke, you are the shining lights in the civil society space. You've made the contributions. You've provoked us to think in new directions. We thank you very much for all your contributions. And as any good panel of speakers should be constituted, we have students who are delving into this issue from an academic point of view and bring best practices from another country and from other spaces and domains. And the university students from the University of Leiden have brought that into this conversation. And they have catalyzed a process where we know we have to continue the conversation, because it's not going to end with, is the best practice applicable or not? No, that's not the question. The question is, how can we make it more applicable? So we will have an ongoing conversation on this, and we will bring you together in a community of learning to see how we can share, learn, and improve what we hope to produce at the end of the day, what the students hope to produce and share at the end of the day. It's been an honor and a privilege to curate this conversation, to try to take us to a point where we feel that there is some hope in making schools safe, and hope in exploiting the opportunities of the digital alternative and digital platforms. And I think one learning and point on which we can end is that we do need a hybrid model. We need an online model, as someone so eloquently said. You know, the digital option is with us. We can't run away from it, and we have to accept it. But we also need to make schools safe. That's the offline model, the physical place of learning. So I think the perspective that we can walk away with is we need a hybrid model, but we certainly need to invest in both options. Thank you all, panelists, speakers, for your candid presentations and sharing of this morning. To all the participants and all the wonderful education champions who signed into this webinar and spent an hour plus with us, thank you for giving your time. We appreciate it. We know it's early in the morning, you're at your desks, you have a lot to do, and you shared with us and you participated, you asked questions, you provoked us, you told us who you are, where you stand on issues, and we thank you all. This has been our pleasure from behalf of the DRPC team who brought this all together, Zubaida, Kiki, and all the folks at the DRPC end. It's been our pleasure to anchor this webinar. Thank you and goodbye. Have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Judith. God bless you.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Thank you. You too. Thank you.